So Sean's going to do a little bit of double duty. We're running a little short on time, so if you want to skip the story and go right to your second half, it's totally
Yeah.
Okay.
So the quick version is, this is Adam Dunham, Brad Conlon from DR Horton, and when they came to Alarm.com to start understanding what a builder process should be, we're brand new to the builder space as well. So we took them through a demo house tour, walked them through headquarters, really got them to understand who Alarm.com is. But it was very quick to start understanding what their definition of smart home was, and we kind of compared notes to that. And it was a fascinating discussion because ultimately, we always tell builders that you should start with a decision on the platform first, and then you work your way down to hardware and service integrators and so on. And the reason for that is a lot of the builders in the past would sometimes chase the shiny objects that were out there. And when a lot of these customers, when they first moved in and they wanted to upgrade their system, turns out that 40 to 50% of people nationwide want to upgrade their new home to security. It turned out that all those shiny objects that the home standardized on did not work with any of the big platforms out there, which meant you would have to take away a brand new door lock, or you'd have to change a proprietary thermostat. And so we always want to have these discussions with builders as to what's your platform first. Think about what the builder can get out of smart technology, and then ultimately, what does the customer get out of this? So we really look at the lifetime value and really net promoter score in mind. The last thing you want is to make a decision where people are ripping new things out of their home. So once that platform decision is made, we sat down with them and said, what hardware relationships do you have in place, and which ones are you continuing with? And DR Horton's a very, very loyal builder. And so what was great is as you kind of look at this image here, some of the smart components of their offering, we're able to work with every single one of them already. We've already had done that integration with the exception of the thermostat. So we talked about that. We got that integration done within a couple of months. But we are able to kind of work backwards from platform, now hardware. Now we looked at all their integrators. So we actually had them go out to all their division leaders and ask what relationships they had in place. And then we wanted to make sure when we looked over that list that they had gone through all the proper training. I'll talk a little bit in a moment about best practice scores. So there's a lot of data that allows us to understand what the integrators are doing, and are they doing it the right way? Are they taking care of the builder's customers? And so we can act on that data very, very quickly. And then lastly, the platform, we have the hardware, we have the service providers. How do we actually execute on this? How do we roll out a plan? And the first 30 days when we officially launched with DR Horton 5 years ago, there was a lot of questions that started coming in. And it was hard to keep up. And so we had to come up with a solution. And what we essentially did is create this master FAQ. And this just gives you a screenshot of what the beginning of it looks like. But there's product reviews. So the thermostats, the light switches, all the hardware that's used, we have it all in one place for them, whether you're on the corporate side of the builder, if you're a division leader, if you're an ecosystem partner. The whole story was kind of told in one master document. And so that included helpful training videos, the marketing message of DR Horton or any builder that we work with. What is that marketing message? How do you guys define a smart home? And we come together and make sure that that is all streamlined and understood with everyone that is engaging in that smart home scenario within that builder world. And then, of course, over time, as we find best practices, we want to incorporate best practices in this document as well. So that was a little bit on the builder side. Now we're going to talk a little bit on the customer side, how we can deal with long-term support. And the beautiful thing about Alarm.com, I'd mentioned early on that I actually worked with the old parent company, started there in '97 with MicroStrategy, And we're very good at building out data warehouses. And when Alarm.com got started in 2000, and then we became public company in 2015, well, in 2000, we built a data warehouse as if we're a Fortune 50 company. And later on, data became a valuable asset for us to understand how these gadgets are used within the home and what's the health of that customer. A higher engaged customer means lower attrition for our service providers, and ultimately what that means is a very strong net promoter score for the builders. So we wanted to make sure that we focus on engagement. You can see that this is just last year's data, over 300 billion data points, over 100 million connected devices, and so we wanted to make sense of all that information. And so the way that we look at integrators, one aspect of kind of data mining that we do on our side is what we refer to as our 6 best practices. So we slice and dice our information to try to figure out what activities that take place inside the home, also with our service providers, could have the greatest impact of increasing engagement while lowering attrition. And it came down to these 6 items. So some of them are pretty straightforward. Verify the email so we can do marketing messaging, notifications, make sure we have the right mobile phones that are connected, and so on. Some of these rules as well really help out ultimately with the engagement between the customer and the system that they've purchased from you as a builder. So this all kind of leads to how do we analyze and how do we share this information and high-level impact ultimately with the service providers, because the data is there to tell a story. And if the story is going in the right direction, we want to understand why it's going in the right direction, because that's a best practice that we want to take advantage of and make sure that all of our builders have a great experience and their customers have a great experience. If it's going in the wrong direction, like perhaps in this particular case, the login rates of this portfolio is not as high as it should be, or the average best practice score here is 4.1. If there's 6 best practices, we're driving to a best practice score of 6. So we really educate our dealers in understanding what's going on with that best practice score, how can we get it higher to, again, increase engagement, lower that attrition. And all these things can be drilled into as well with these business health reports that we extend to our service providers. And some of this high-level data can also be available for our builders as well, where we have quarterly business reviews to really understand what's happening within your communities. And some of this information clearly is fantastic for the customer experience, but at the same time, is there some data points in here that we might be able to leverage to alter your marketing message as well? So again, the point here is we have a lot of information. We want to drill into that, and we want to improve the overall experience with the customer. And so we do that through our service providers that are there to help that customer engagement, ensure that they're getting that white glove service that is expected, because the last thing the builder wants to do is, you don't want to be the IoT support. You want to make sure that you have partners in place that have your best interests in mind and your customers' best interests in mind. And we have data that kind of show that that's exactly what they're doing.